Astrology. So this is for the 23rd to the 29th of November. Couple of things I want to pull out before we jump into the day by day astrology predictions. First of all, Saturn is stationary this week. He will be stationing direct. We won't really feel that energy until next week, but it means that Saturn is the strongest planet this week in the skies. And that's important because he's forming, well, Jupiter is aspecting Saturn at the moment. And both Mercury, the Sun, and Venus will also be part of this grand trine that's being formed between Jupiter, Saturn, and these personal planets. So, this is a week where I would be saying there can be a lot of delays, there can be a lot of restrictions, and a lot of slowing down of energy. It can literally feel like time is creeping, time is slowing down, and maybe things that you wanted to get done encounter obstacles which stop them. But we always have to remember that Saturn has our ultimate highest interest um, in at its heart. And so this slowing down will actually ultimately work in our favor, particularly because Mercury is still retrograde. So we kind of don't want to act or start new things just yet. So you can find that this week is really one where you're called to stop, to surrender to circumstances that you actually really need to accept you can't change. It is the way it is because of the karma. It just is. And it's something you have to experience. And it's also a time to push out, to accept that there might be a different timing for what you want to achieve, for a new project, for energy around work, around relationships, around your home. And finally, the most important thing with Saturn is we take full karmic responsibility for ourselves. The planets are not there to punish you. Nothing in this universe is there to punish you, but everything is a result of actions that were previously taken. It's all cause and effect. And kind of every um, major esoteric spiritual practice talks about that, like Buddhism, in Hinduism, and definitely in astrology. It's basically the basis of astrology, which is that um, every life we have and all karma that is delivered to us in a lifetime is stuff that is a result of our actions from past lives or from this life. And instead of pushing against that karma, one of the most important things we can do is just take responsibility for it. We don't need to understand how we created it. We don't need to know what past life created it. But when we take responsibility for it and for ourselves and our reaction to something, it somehow eases something in the body. It makes it easier to surrender. We start pushing against circumstances and we work with them. Now, the other thing I want to mention this week is the North Node, or Rahu, or the head of the dragon, the point of destiny, the north point of the moon, the north node of the moon, will be moving into a part of Aquarius called Shatabhishak. It's a nakshatra in Aquarius. And I have recorded a full video explaining what it means and how we can work with this energy ahead of the eclipse season we're going to have in February, March, where the North Node in Shatabhishak is going to get a really big workout. And particularly because this deals with healing, it can deal with a healing crisis, an existential crisis coming about, karmas that need to be purified. We always have the opportunity to work ahead of time. So details are below. You can check out that video. And like I mentioned in regards to Saturn, we do have this beautiful grand trine aspect happening. Um, so Saturn, the Lord of Karma, who is super strong this week, is being aspected by Jupiter, who is like the Lord of Dharma or the Guru of the Zodiac. And we're going to have Mercury Retrograde first create the first aspect with them, and then Venus come in to do the same. Now, this can stir up a lot of energy. Like I've been looking at this kind of beautiful, or the aspect, the drishti that Jupiter is making to Saturn, and thinking about how it relates back to the conjunction that they had in 2019, 2020. And so it's almost like that conjunction, which brought about amazing amount of collective change as Jupiter is now moving into its aspect of looking at Saturn. There can be a way in which dharma has to be followed, corrected. Things that have been highly unethical that have gone on during that period from 2019, 2020 have to be corrected and are in the process of being exposed and corrected. And because Mercury retrograde is going to add into that, and Jupiter will aspect Mercury retrograde in that grand trine. So it's like it's like Jupiter's looking at Saturn, and then Jupiter's also looking at Mercury. You can find that this is about information that's been suppressed, being released, issues, and as Venus moves in there as well, it's also issues around like dodgy dealings with money, things that were done that are dharmic with property, with the use of property, particularly when we're talking about like collective governmental energy. Final point, I know I've said final a couple of times. It's our last week of Mercury retrograde. Mercury's going to station on Friday. It will also be a really big Friday, Saturday. It's also going to be a really big energy through this week because it will be moving to stationary as we hit the middle of the week. So just being extra cautious, being extra considered with your words. Don't start anything new. Really work through what Mercury is showing you around your truth and your ability to communicate and the wisdom from that. And because the energy of this week and kind of last week has been very much about like slow down, like no impulsive action, as best you can, like the cosmos is really rewarding discipline in this week and last week. Going within, learning as opposed to starting new action. Starting new action will come next week. So let's talk about today. Sunday, the 23rd of November. It's quite a beautiful karmic day. We start the week with the moon in Sagittarius aligned with the galactic center. So the center, the black hole at the center of the universe, and it's got a very Kali energy to it today. It's also sitting with the asteroid Vesta, and it's sitting, because it's aligned with the galactic center, it sits in a nakshatra, a lunar mansion called Mula. Mula is the root, right? So we can understand why it's called the root, because it's literally like the moon is sitting with the galactic center, which is the root of all creation. So this is a place, because the moon is now entering its waxing phase, it will be growing in light this week. We're now in a period where the mind is growing in its awareness. So as of today, it's trying to get to the bottom of something. It's able to finally like piece some things together that it's been having trouble understanding. And the energy we need to be quite mindful of, because when the moon is in this part of Sagittarius in Mula Nakshatra, there can be the tendency to be a little bit self-destructive, to kind of cut off your nose despite your face would be a good way to describe it. So like in the process of trying to get to the bottom of things, you can find that you actually destroy things that were working if you aren't careful. We just want to be careful that we today prune, trim back, disentangle, but we don't uproot what is already working. There can be regret if we do on the back of it. Now, at the same time, because this is a moon linked to both our desire for liberation as well as to our past life vasanas or karmic imprints, we want to be really careful today when we get upset or triggered that we don't just walk away from the situation, that we don't just try to escape, hop on a plane, book some travel. And equally, we don't just jump into the intellect for answers. We don't just try and overthink things and ruminate, or find a book or a teacher or a friend that will give us the advice that we want. What we want to do with the energy, particularly if it is challenging for you, it's not going to be challenging for all of us because it really depends on the placement of our personal moon. But if it is challenging for you, instead of escaping or over intellectualizing, spend some time going in. See if you could just carve out 5 minutes just to be mindful, to really hear what the body's trying to tell you, instead of distracting yourself by either not feeling it or finding someone else who's going to tell you what you want to hear. Now, the North Node, and I should say, like the opportunity of this day, like really the karmic potential of this day is really to dive into deeper connection to yourself, to dive into that cosmic womb within, that Kali truth energy that is so strong today and it's waiting to be heard. Now, also today, the North Node, which is Rahu in Vedic astrology, is entering Shatabhishak Nakshatra, a part of Aquarius, a subset of Aquarius. And kind of as a side note, the nakshatras are great because they're the original Zodiac. There are 27 nakshatras. And on top of that, they help explain why, say, not all Aquarius energy is the same. Because, you might know someone that's got a very strong Aquarius moon and someone else that's got a very strong Aquarius moon or sun, and they might be nothing alike. There might be similarities, but a lot of it's different. And that will be because their planets are sitting in different nakshatras within that sign or within any of the signs. And so the North Node entering Shatabhishak, it will be there until the 2nd of August. And it's a big deal because Shatabhishak is ruled by the North Node. And the North Node represents destiny, technology, more technology hardware. It represents illusion and Maya. It represents the collective consciousness. And it also represents the ignorance we carry. And so you can find this as a period where from today through to February, when the energy gets really activated during eclipse season next year, it's very subtle. But I would be saying, like, pay attention to where it's highlighting things you need to heal. That might be physical healing, it might be psychological healing, it could just be more of an existential crisis. But it's also going to show you where you need help in life if you're willing to listen and not overthink it, because there can be a lot of overthinking energy with the North Node sitting in a nakshatra that is ruled by itself because it loves over intellectualizing and getting caught in its own illusion. So I will put a link below to the deep dive I've done on that shift of the North Node into Shatabhishak. Now, the other thing today, God, there's a lot happening on Sunday, is Mercury Retrograde. Jupiter will aspect Mercury Retrograde. It will also aspect Saturn, forming a grand trine, or what we would know as a grand trine in Western astrology. There's something that needs to be replayed. There was something where there was an oversight and it needs to be reconsidered, and that timing is right now, and not just personally, but at a collective level. It's the opportunity almost came previously but didn't. And as Mercury moves into this beautiful position, you might find that some of that energy relates back to things happening in late 2019, 2020 that are finally let out and released in your life or in the collective energy. Now, even though Mercury is retrograde in this position, it can feel like there is the opportunity to receive good karma that you are owed for discipline that you showed, for following what is dharmically true, even though it was difficult. And even this can be a period of time where you realize a speculation that you made that was accurate. At a collective level, it can feel like there's systematic change starting to take shape because we're going back over something that has to be understood so that we can all move forward. Potentially keep your eyes open, I would be saying, on the Epstein files, but I think there'll be other information that comes up, and that's just the material manifestation of something that is deep within all of our psyches that we're experiencing as a collective. It contains, it's also a day, and this kind of this grand trine between these planets also contains incredible wisdom. And that's because the nakshatras that Mercury is in, that Jupiter's in, and Saturn are in are all ruled by Jupiter. So some type of dharma, some type of ethical action is being returned at a collective and individual level. Yeah, just keep your eyes open on the collective. I feel like there's things that will come out that are transformative, that reveal secrets, and related, that are it's deeply emotional and sensitive. Now, on Monday, the 24th, the moon continues its journey in Sagittarius, and it's moving from Mula to Purva Ashada. And this is a place where we step into energy, and Purva Ashada is kind of the energy of being a bit of a spiritual warrior. And so we can find that on Monday, we're a little bit of a warrior in like the things that are coming to us, the direction we want to take, though you want to be really careful, want to keep things slow. There can be a desire to be very righteous and ethical on Monday, and just be very careful that that righteousness and ethical behavior isn't coming from a place of wanting to slam down someone else or make them seem lesser than you. This can be a day where the mind is very much focused on creativity, particularly on like that originality. It doesn't have to manifest as art, but that original creative thinking. And something within you, maybe an idea or an impulse that you've had that just can't be suppressed anymore. And you can find it comes out in really weird and wonderful ways, like wanting to paint, wanting to dance, wanting to create something material, or creating something that you might want to sell. Even say creating something that adds value to something you own that you want to sell, like a home or a car or an asset. You can find this creativity and originality is best sparked through friendships, through groups, and even solutions you intuit to help society or the world. It's also a day which can be really good for connecting with friends if you have that on the plate, or to rebuild a relationship within a social dynamic, and also to reinvigorate what you want to grow in life. It's the perfect day also if you love water. Even if you don't, it's the perfect day to connect to water. You can find it's deeply soothing, particularly if Purvarashada it's not really your type of energy. You can find that there is some release if you're able to have a nice bath, hop in the sea, hop in the lake, in a river, that type of energy. And materially, might even be a day where you consider traveling with friends or seeing friends that live overseas. There's kind of this energy of like moving overseas that comes with Monday. Now, also on Monday, Mercury retrograde re-enters Libra. This is where it's going to station direct. And it will be in Libra until the 7th of December. So part of it will be retrograde until the 29th. And then it will be direct from that point until the 7th. And so a bit of a hint of what to expect. I want you to think back on what was going on for you around the 21st to the 25th of October. Were there any important conversations that were happening with partners, in relationship, business, or intimate partners? What can happen between Monday and the 29th is you're rehashing these conversations, these things that maybe you thought you'd agreed to, these things that you thought you were moving forward with. And it can be like they come back up. There's questions about what was discussed. Maybe, you thought that everything was fine, but actually you still need to give more detail. There's still something that needs to be hashed out, and it can relate to money, shared assets, buying or selling of something with someone you are in a partnership with. And with that, you can find it brings to the surface energy around self-worth, what you've attracted into your life. And just remember to not be too fatalistic. Like Mercury retrograde's just teaching you there's something that wasn't fully ironed out, and you just need to talk about it, but also don't expect for it to be fully ironed out until the 20 or after the 29th. Now, Mars is going to aspect the North Node today as well. So the North Node moved into Shatabhishak on Sunday, and then we're going to get a bit of a zap from the cosmos, I would be saying, because Mars will be looking at the North Node. And so what can we expect from that? I would be saying it can bring things out of the depths, things that have been lying dormant within you, within society. You get a little bit of a hint of what's that about. Even if things pop up today which look a bit unfortunate, they can turn out to be a huge blessing. So just know that, like, we don't want to judge what comes up. It can also trigger at a societal level things we need to deal with, like the darkness we hide within. You can find that it pays to be smart with this aspect. It really pays to think things through and be very strategic, not to act on impulse and not to try and overpower someone with your idea or what you think is right, but rather be smart, and you will ultimately be successful with this aspect. Finally, it's Vinayaka Chaturthi, which is Ganesh's day. Like one of my favorite days. It's every 2 weeks we have Ganesh Chaturthi on the 4th lunar day of the fortnight. Now, if you need a little bit of support, this is the day. This is the day to call upon Ganesh Monday. He is an incredible guide for us to work with our karma. He's the energy that lives in our Muladhara chakra, in the base chakra, where we hold our heaviest karmas. He helps us with that, which is often what the planets are releasing through our chart during certain transits and mahadashas. And Ganesh is really there, like, to help us, not to avoid our karma, but to help us work with it. And so if you know the Ganesh mantra, use it. If you want to know the Ganesh mantra, check out the Ganesh Chaturthi workshop myself and Siddhi Shakti you can learn it, as well as the importance of Ganesh in astrology. But even if you don't know the mantra, make offerings to him, knowing that the ultimate prayer is surrender. Tuesday the 25th. The moon is moving from Sagittarius to Capricorn. So we kind of go from this like fiery, kinetic, expansive, optimistic energy to more grounded energy. And it's going to be staying in one nakshatra, one lunar mansion, that entire time, called Uttara Ashada, or the latter Ashada. And so the energy of Tuesday, it really starts to ground ideas from Monday. It can be really focused, really goal oriented, and wanting recognition from the people around it. Again, there can be a really strong humanitarian bent to this energy. So wanting to focus on what is dharmic, what is righteous, not what is easy or what will appeal to other people in an egoic sense. Just be careful again on Tuesday that you're not too self-righteous with the energy. So we're not moving from a place of putting someone down or teaching them that they're wrong. We're moving them from a place of what's for the highest good of humanity. You can find that this moon actually demands that you work through challenges, focusing on something bigger than yourself, working for the highest good of the society that you're in, or even just the group of people you might find yourself with. Because there's a lot of social energy to this week, which is interesting with Saturn. It can be a day where there's actually a lot of social connections that pop up, or the mixing with groups, or the focus on your social identity that pops up. And one of the parts of that is really like, how can you help the groups and the community that you're in from your place of privilege? How can you use your karmic privilege to help those who maybe don't have what you have in this life? Now, Mercury retrograde is going to conjunct Venus in Vishaka, ruled by Jupiter. Vishaka, they're both in Libra at the moment. And this is interesting because this is also playing into that grand trine aspect that I spoke about from Sunday with Jupiter and Saturn. So when I look at this, Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus, Tuesday's the perfect day for exes to reappear, old flames to reappear, particularly if they're important for the karma that you have during this Mercury retrograde season. You can find also there's energy around finances that reappear, like maybe something you thought you dealt with that comes back to the surface, and even your sense of worth. You can find that this particularly pops up in work today, or in people you're responsible with, or through social connections. I would be saying use this energy to journal, to write something beautiful, to sing, to find joy in your words, slowing down. Like, don't get too serious. There is a beauty to Venus and Mercury together where they almost want you to stop and smell the roses. But if you're too busy worrying about what's going on, you won't be able to like fully access that energy. So just slow things down, spend time in beauty, spend time with people you love and that are beautiful, and don't take life too seriously, particularly because Venus will move into Scorpio tomorrow. So she's in Libra today with Mercury. Enjoy. Wednesday, the 26th of November. The moon will still be in Capricorn and it's moving into Shravana Nakshatra, which is the ear. That's what Shravana represents. It's ruled by the moon. The moon is at home here. And Capricorn's also ruled by Saturn. And at the beginning, we were talking about how Saturn is stationary. So the moon is very, very strong on Wednesday. It can make it a day where you really have to be considered with your words, which will benefit you with Mercury retrograde. It's almost like where you would normally give your opinion, you hold back a little bit, kind of watch what's going on, see the lay of the land. It's really a day to listen, to stop speaking and really hear what other people are actually saying, not with their words, but with the things that the non-verbal communication that they're using. Even listen as well to the advice that you give others on Wednesday, because you can find that's advice that you need to take yourself. It's just the universe is giving it to you that way. It's also a day similar to the rest of the week. Like I said, there's this big group social energy going on this week, and you can find that Wednesday is no different. There's still a lot of social group energy, and today it can be about connecting people together, connecting ideas together, because you're really listening and looking. It might be that you put two people together that need to meet each other, that you bring two ideas together that will really benefit what's happening in the world or within your world. You bring knowledge together, and that you're able to see the underlying pattern in what is going on around you. You can also find that if there's been a problem in your life you haven't quite been able to solve, it's just kind of like itching at you. This is a day which can bring answers, but the answers will come through listening and connecting new things together. So pay attention to who's with you, pay attention to what they say, as well as advice that you give to others. Now, Venus enters Scorpio on Wednesday, and still in Vishaka, because Vishaka sits across Libra and Scorpio, and she'll be in Scorpio until the 20th of December. She'll only be in Vishaka, this first nakshatra in Scorpio, until the 29th, which is Saturday. Now, what this means, Venus rules love. She's this tantric goddess in our chart. She's a guru, a bit like Jupiter. And so it can bring depth It can bring intensity, it can bring sensitivity and the demand for authenticity in love and in relationships, in how you relate to the material world as well as to people. It can demand that you really feel. While she's in Vishaka until the end of the week, this can be a period of time where you're actually called to apply effort to what you want to create financially and in external relationships. The universe are really demanding for you to put in some effort. Don't just expect things to happen. Like, show the universe what you want. Knowing that the ultimate effort is the realization of the love that lives within. If you're at that place and that's what you're looking for, like, you know that love is not going to come from money or from someone external to you, then use this energy to dive further within. Make effort into the love that lives within. Grow that. She'll be sitting with the Black Moon Lilith, which I love. It's like Durga. And she'll perfectly meet the Black Moon Lilith later this week. So the energy is radical, it's primal, it's unconventional. She's also aspecting Jupiter, who's exalted, and Jupiter's ruling the nakshatra she's in. So I'd be saying, like, this is really about following what is dharmic in your relationships, using your money wisely and dharmically, and ultimately going within to understand that you are the love of your life, which is highly unconventional. It goes against everything society teaches us, but it's the only place we're going to find that love. Today, in particular, you can find that that brings deep conversations, listening to people's values as they display them through their behaviors and words, and being really practical in the questions that you want to ask the people around you. Thursday, the 27th of November, the moon is moving from Capricorn to Aquarius. So we're entering more rebellious energy. And it's going to be sitting in Dhanishta Nakshatra, which sits across Capricorn and Aquarius. Dhanishta is all about wealth, but not material wealth, it's spiritual wealth. And it's really remembering that you are a channel for the divine. Like the air that moves through Krishna's flute, you're the flute, and the divine is the air that makes the sound, makes the movement through you. This is what Danisha is reminding us. And so, as much as we can sometimes feel disconnected from the divine is always running through us. We're never not in connection with the divine. We are the divine. So, there can be this energy today on Thursday of really tuning in to that flow and listening to the beat of the music within. How does it want you to move? How does the divine want you to move? What is the beat of your drum that you're being called to follow, particularly as it differs to the people around you or to society? And it can mean that you on Thursday kind of deviate from where you've been finding comfort or belonging, deviate from the rules that you grew up with that maybe you normally follow, and deviate from the expectations that you feel your family or the people you live with have of you. It can also be a moon that actually brings family and friends together, that brings this belonging, but also encourages you to remember that ultimately you belong within, not outside. There can also be outer success today that comes from friends and families, as you follow what is true for you. Just know that the moon will be aspecting Rahu, the North Node, over the next couple of days while it's in Aquarius. So there can be a lot of heady energy as well, and that can come with Aquarius in general. It can be a bit of a heady sign. So there can be like a bit of overthinking around stepping away from mass trends and or consensus as much as you can. Like, keep that, but also feel embodied, feel at one. And if you notice that mind ticking over, get into nature, regulate with Mother Nature. The moon, while it's aspecting Rahu as well, can also have you thinking a lot about the future, um, about how you want to be different from what everyone else is doing. And at the same time, it can show you some opportunities that you have around you to heal, maybe through your friendships. Maybe there's a connection you meet who has some type of medicine that would be good for you. Particularly if you've been dealing with a chronic illness or you just know you need a little bit of psychological help, you can find you meet the right people over the next couple of days to help you. Now, Venus also on Thursday is going to join Jupiter and Saturn in this love fest trine that's going on. They're all in Jupiter ruled nakshatras. It's kind of like the Sun, Mercury, and Venus are being, Jupiter's looking at these guys, and then Jupiter's also looking at Saturn, and then Jupiter's also ruling all of the nakshatras that they're in. So it can be a lucky day. There can be some material luck, I would be saying today, on Thursday, a sense of an investment paying off. But at a high level, it's not really about the material realm. It's more about the lessons that you've learned in love and relationships and with your self-worth, receiving wisdom from that, understanding what that karma was about and what was dharmic in those relationships, and even being called to be dharmic in how you use your money, in how you invest, like not investing in um countries, cities, or corporations that you know are adamic, that are unethical. This can be a day where it's very much about investing in what you hope for the world, in what is dharmic and right and ethical for the world as well as yourself. Because Jupiter is wanting to restore ethics and dharma, particularly when it comes to possessions, property, and finances, in this instance with Venus. So just pay attention. You might notice that some karma to pay around where money's been misused, where property's been misused, where inappropriate relationships have happened that come to light in order for Dharma to be restored. And that could be both at a personal and collective level. Friday, 28th, Moon is still in Aquarius. It's going to be right with the North Node in Shatabhishak, which I spoke about at the beginning of this week. So here we're going to get a taste of the energy of what eclipse season is going to be bringing in February, March. Really listen, what needs healing, what karmas is the universe calling for you to start to address, but it will be very subtle. Where do you need to forgive? Where do you need to have compassion? And even what past life karmas in your life might be presenting as psychological issues or physical illness. You might get a hint, really pay attention today, of what healing journey you're going to be on through to August next year, what it's about, what you're really addressing. And that might be physical, it might be about your direction in life, it can relate to the head, it can be about your ability to move forward, or your psychology or your nervous system. Really pay attention, really listen, because like the whispers in our body are pure intelligence. And the more we can listen to them before before they become screams, the more we can support ourselves. Also on Friday, Saturn stations direct. That means, like I said, the beginning of the week, it's the strongest energy in the cosmos right now. There can be a really big desire on Friday, order, structure, control, to take on more responsibility than maybe you need to. And really a beautiful energy around Saturn is like surrender. Surrender to the situation in your life. It is how it is because that's how it's meant to be. It's not a mistake. Surrendering to that, take some of that energy of feeling like the universe is against you or feeling like things should be different, which create a lot of anxiety and tension in the body. It's also a deeply spiritual energy. Because Saturn stations direct in Pisces, it can bring up a lot of inner purification and transformation, which calls you to connect even deeper to your inner nature. Saturn is in a nakshatra ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is looking at Saturn. It's aspecting Saturn, which can bring good karma accumulated in past lives as well. And that karma can come as things being restricted, things being delayed, things not happening the way you want to. There'll be a bigger reason that's happening you just can't see, and it will be for your benefit. The ultimate benefit being of which is self-realization. You can also see that this is a day to really consider how you deal with the karma in your life. Like, are you willing to surrender it, or do you think you're in control? Um, and are you able to be responsible for the karma? You know, one of the things with Saturn and working with Saturn is Saturn will never reward us for being a victim. In fact, it makes Saturn's energy harder. So how can we take responsibility for our karma? Not see it as a punishment, but see it as a means to self-realization. And very often the good is in the challenging. You know, often, like, I think this sometimes, and I think I've said it to a couple of clients, you know, sometimes if you had a perfect chart, I almost think that that would be a bad life because nothing would happen in your life to wake you up. There would be no challenge and you wouldn't learn anything. There'd be no evolution. Whereas a great chart is a chart that's challenging, and a challenging chart is one where we have to deal with Saturnian influences. We have to deal with influences from the North Node. And we really, in that, come to know who we really are, that we are the thing that lives beyond karma. Now, the 29th of November, which is Saturday, is a deeply spiritual day. We're going to finish with the moon in Aquarius in Purva Bhadrapada, which means it will still be sitting next to Rahu. But there's this like deep, rebellious, revolutionary, but like mystical, spiritual revolution energy in it. It's a day where you need to see the bigger picture. It's not about detail at all. Where there can be a call to move beyond selfish behavior or adamic behavior. And there can also be a desire to have more discipline in your life, even to see the deeper spiritual calling that comes with it. There can also be a really big focus today on worth, issues around self-worth, doubt of self, and even energy around money or finances that come to the surface. Really, at the heart of that is the universe calling for you to live a little bit more simply. Like, do you really need that thing, or are you just trying to fill the God-sized hole, which would feel better if you sat by yourself for 5 minutes? Um, yeah, like I said, don't focus on the detail today. Look up, slow down, and just trust. There can be restrictions that come about today, but you'll find that they help you dive deeper into yourself. Now, the other thing to mention, Venus enters Anuradha. So she's moving out of Vishaka in Scorpio into Anuradha, which is a nakshatra, which is entirely in Scorpio, and it's where we had the new moon last week. She'll be in Anuradha with the black moon Lilith until the 9th of December. And it can make her very devotional. You can find that if your focus has been on relationships, love, money, material success, she forces you to go a little bit deeper and even encounter difficulties in these areas, difficulties in relationships, or to reflect upon difficulties you've had in relationships, because she's trying to push you into the devotional aspect of love, which is devotion to the divine, worship of the divine, worship of the divine in your partner, worship of the divine in all energy and all karmas. So you can find there's more spiritual aspect to her, which we don't always encounter. And so just notice if there's challenge with your friends, challenge with partners, to really honor the spirit that lives behind them. To realize also that not getting what you want in love or financially is actually a wonderful blessing if you're willing to open to it. So that's this week's astrology. A couple of things. I'm going to be running a group meditation working with Antares, which is an incredibly important star. It's the star of Archangel Uriel. This is a means to come together to work in a healing way, a healing embodied way with the cosmos, and that will be on the 2nd of December. Also coming up in January, I haven't got these events up, but I'm just going to mention them. I've got 2 events running in January. The first will be the Venus Star Point group meditation. Particularly for those of you that did the Venus Underworld Rebirth embodied course with me, not last year, the year before, we will be working with her if you feel called to come along. And also if you just love Venus, this is a great opportunity to connect with her energy, to embody her energy. And finally, I'm going to be running an event at the end of January with Siddhi Shakti, the beautiful mantra spiritual teacher, which will be a Surya or sun sadhana. It will be a devotional practice dedicated to the sun, to understanding the life force in our charts. We'll be working with his chant on his Jayanti, which is Ratha Saptami. And we'll have details for that for both Venus and the Surya Sadhana in early December, both of which will be running in January. I hope you have a wonderful week. Finally, if you want to dive deeper, I'm always available for a one-on-one reading over the holiday period. I'll be working. So if it feels like something that's on the cards for you, it would be an absolute gift to read your chart with you.